Two women. One spent 24 years as a nurse in intensive care and operating theatres. The other, an accredited mental health social worker supporting people through trauma. Like us, many of you have lived inside the systems and have your own lived and living experiences. We're not telling you our names just yet, but we will tell you why we're here. There's a wound for frontliners that workplaces won't name, and it's not just burnout, it's moral injury. What happens when the system forces you to choose between your conscience and your calling? We've lived it. Our differences are what creates unity, and the conversations that heal happen between peers. That is what Between Peers is all about.
In our last podcast, we were talking about a topic at the end which really needed its own podcast. Basically, we had been talking about eating our young. I'd brought up new or recent graduates or final placement students who would expected to do something very standard within our industry. So I will give an example of like a standard intake and assessment within a mental health or any NGO organisation, but I imagine somewhat similar within health. And very standard intake, like nothing really particularly special comes out of it. You know what I mean? It's not overly traumatic or anything like that. And then the student or the new grad then becomes triggered or needs, to walk around the block for 30 minutes to regulate their nervous system, or, needs to critically self-reflect for half an hour. And that's something I struggle with. Like, that's the young I want to eat. Do you know what I mean? And then I wonder, is that something fundamentally wrong with me? Am I part of this system that is bad and is harming our young... emerging practitioners, right? Or is there something wrong with the system? Or have they been raised with kid gloves? Or, what's wrong? Is it the education system that's wrong? I absolutely love our universities, so I do not think it's our universities. So is it high school? Is it, these wellbeing TikTok? Or is it this new generation that's me-centered? I don't like doing the generation thing. It makes me a bit sick. Or is it this new parenting style of these young people always getting participation awards and not hearing no? What's the problem? And it's a lot of them. It's not just a one-off
But it's
experience.
not just your industry. It's society. If you think about it, I even have this conversation with my daughter, right? She's neurodivergent, okay? And she's in year 11 at school, and I try to explain to her, because she carries a lot of thought processes around wanting to be independent. But conversely, whilst wanting to be independent, not doing anything to be independent.
Yeah.
And my poor brain is discombobulated because it's make sense. You're wanting independence. You are actively hunting independence. You're also being a teenager, so you're going through that teenage stage of not listening to the parents and prefer to listen to the peer development phase. So awareness around that is all within context, but wants the independence and wants to do things for independence, but does nothing to actually create it. Now, if you then take that, what?
I just had a thought. I actually realised that our latest new graduate was someone whose last year of high school was during COVID. So they've had all of the stuff that I take for granted has not happened for them. They did all of their university schooling through COVID. That has had, you talk about COVID causing PTSD. I don't know that we can diagnose that, but do you know what I mean? It's done something to our nervous system. And I wonder if that's part of it as well. What has getting trained through COVID and often lacking actual real world experience, and that done to our emerging graduates.
Look, I know this is a very divisive thought process, but because I post on TikTok, right? And I've got a little TikTok page happening, right? And the ones that are getting a lot of traction, the topics that are getting a lot of attraction are the ones that are talking about either the ADHD or the CPTSD or any of those sort of topics, because people are seeing it in themselves, that there's seriously questioning that the last 5-6 years, right? Basically, let's talk from, say, 2019, which is the last normal year, in theory, from what anyone talks about, was where normality was the last seen was 2019, apparently, right? And from that perspective, because 2020 was 2020, and from that perspective and lens, are we wondering that experience, depending on where they were within the education cycle, was that experience causing a shift that's only now being seen?
Yeah, what is
it's
that
now
isolation?
only being experienced and witnessed. Because I believe, and if I could be wrong, I could be talking out of my, back seat for all I know, but I believe that there is a direct correlation that experience for society has created a trauma, a PTSD experience in a lot of nervous systems because of what happened. The isolation, the masks, the following the rules, or else sort of, and the fear of dying, and all the fear that's around everything in the unknown that was in play, right? All that is now being expressed through the age bracket of people that are essentially that 15 to 25-year-olds. I wonder if that's a hypothesis.
No, I wonder. I see, and this is, again, critical self-reflection. I wonder if it's a fundamental flaw in me, but I see this round of people coming through, and it's not everyone. I would say it maybe a third, maybe less, quarter, as really selfish for their own well-being. Like I was saying in the previous podcast, that when you're sitting in front of a client or a patient or whatever, you leave yourself at the door. You leave your thoughts, your feelings, your prejudices, your everything at the door, and you are there to completely focus on your client and your client's needs. Because, like I've said, it's about keeping them alive, right? Like often in what we do.
But nursing's similar. Like you are to leave your biases and treat the client as the client, literally in front of you. And so with that awareness and that knowledge in play, you are to leave whatever viewpoint literally at the door and not bring any judgment into play, and I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. I'm just saying that it's interesting and, maybe even situational that we are still being older. We're still used to a system where we are causing trauma to our nervous system because we are perform at the cost of our nervous system. The management and the hierarchy still expects that from us. But the younger ones that was raised during the COVID era are coming through with a nervous system that's heightened. Maybe is that, I don't know, you're the one who's the nervous system girl, but it's heightened, it's traumatized, it's reactive, and need more time to self-regulate. But the management don't allow that.
Well, I think it's too much. And then I wonder if I'm the problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a standard intake, babe. Do you know what I mean? Like, nothing triggering's happened. Why do you need half an hour afterwards to critically self-reflect and to regulate your nervous system? Like, is this the right career for you, is what I'm thinking. But I can't say that out loud. I mean, I'm saying that out loud. I wonder if anyone else thinks that. And is that part of that whole eating our young?
Well, the genuine concern, which is what you're raising, is that there's a genuine disconnect with the young that are in the system at the moment, as you've identified. But it's simultaneously, whilst you're talking about that, then there's also the fact that a workplace can't sustain that level of self-care.
No.
Because that level of, they're not meeting their workload requirements.
Exactly.
So as a result, that's an issue in itself. And then my poor brain thinks, oh shit, the medical system, the this system, the that system are all going to fall apart Because if this is the new grads, as we get older and we exit the system, the new grads who can only take 50% of the workload because they need the self-care, that's unsustainable.
Well, then I feel like, and I suppose this is a good segue to that, if I've got a new grad that's not pulling their weight, or a staff member that I feel like is not pulling their weight, I have empathy to a certain extent because I understand how hard it can be. And so I step in and start to pick up that extra workload because I worry about clients, because I know that they're very, very vulnerable and they need help and support. So I'm like, yeah, okay, do I have the spoons today? Okay, I'll step in and do it. But then
you're going to be the one at mistakes. You're going to be the one who's going to be pulled up in front of, HR or other people, whatever the way your system works. And you're the ones who are going to end up being pulled over the hawks because, like the very, very, very first conversation we had on the first podcast, where we talk about, all caps, you forgot to do this because you're doing extra.
You pushed in front of the bus.
Absolutely. At what point in time, obviously the system's broken, we know that, but how can we survive the system and turn around, create a situation where we still do what we wanted? Because remember, at the end of the day, we are people who actually, we went into these jobs, our why was to genuinely help with people. My why was to genuinely help people because I care for people. I care for humanity. I care for people, and I believe I'm good at what I do.
We spoke about this before outside of a podcast, that I think we both don't do our jobs. Like, you don't do nursing and I don't do social work. I am a social worker and you're a carer, you know what I mean? And the same with you.
Because your job identifies your personality. And
chicken and egg. Oh. We were having this argument.
Yeah, but all things said and done, if you turn around and you tell me someone's job, I can tell you their personality traits.
Some are not all.
A lot.
There are some people that, I think within social work, and I imagine within nursing as well, there's those people that do it to be seen to be doing good.
Do you know why do you have to make my head go?
You know why? Because
yeah, you like to challenge me.
You know what I mean? They're not in it for the right reasons. They're the well-meaning allies, and those that know, and those that don't. But you know what I mean? They're there to be seen to be doing good.
Okay, can I be blunt then?
Soul. I'm talking like soul level. I need to do good.
I'm disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
But let me just put a caveat on that thought process from a nursing perspective, right? From an undergraduate and a graduate, because you cannot succeed in nursing until you've done your training and then had 1 or 2 years out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right?
So would people genuinely
learning frontline? Yeah.
Would people then genuinely, for say that first 2 or 3 years post coming out of university and qualified, actually want to sit there and wipe asses and clean up shit and vomit and snot? Because nursing, right? Let's talk in nursing, not any other profession. Let's talk nursing to point back, because then my brain just goes haywire. Would people want to do the body fluids and clean up just for exactly the expression that you were saying, which was the analogy and understanding that they're doing it not for the core belief and the value of wanting to help people? They were doing it for other reasons.
Well, I would say then often those people come from a certain level of privilege, and they can often bypass that stage because they already know someone. Do you know what I mean? They're generally upper middle class folk that, there's a certain level of people that are in this because they've been there, they've been through it, and they want to help people going through it. Do you know what I mean? And there's, I think, a certain type of people that that have never been through it and want to help people going through it as a nice idea. And they often have people that they know within the family or, friends of family or whatever that can get them in above that level.
Look, I'm not saying it yes and I'm not going to say no, because there will always be one person that will prove the opposite because, Murphy's Law, let's be honest about it. But I don't know if you could get up to any particular senior position in nursing without at least a little bit of reasonable background.
For having wiped asses and cleaned up vomit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think some people have to do less. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Some people do it for 3 months and some people do it for 2 years.
Yeah, maybe. That's because I was about to argue with you, and funny enough, my intuition, spidey senses just reminded me of an incident way back when I was working on a particular ward, and on this particular ward at a public hospital, major public hospital, I kept on going, how come I'm doing this level of night duty and someone else is only doing this level of night duty, right? Because part of our rostering was rotating rosters. You have to do a certain volume of morning shifts, certain volume of afternoon shifts, and a certain volume of night shift, right?
This nepotism is rife in our industry.
Absolutely, but you forget it at times because it's like anything. You try and push away or separate from the bad and you only try to remember the good.
And so then I want to circle back to, is that a fault of our generation? Like expectations, are we the people pleasers? Like as women, we've been raised in particular ways that women of our generation have been raised, that we kind of do everything and it's just expected of us and we don't question it. Whereas this new generation is coming through and they're actually going, hang on a minute, why is it like this?
And you know
my
what?
well-being's important too. And why am I resentful of that?
But I'm now resenting the fact that they've actually clocked onto this.
That's what I mean. Like, why am I resentful of them actually caring about their well-being?
And that plays in my head hardcore. And it's not unreasonable. I'm sorry, I don't think it's unreasonable to sometimes go, hey, I need to have half an hour.
Sometimes.
I said sometimes.
Exactly.
I did say sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes. I'm saying
not after every patient, but
no.
Sometimes. And I
think that that's reasonable within our industry. I know within social work or human services, a lot of places, when you're frontline, you're on the phone, you're doing that crisis work, your manager can be like, whoa, okay, do you need 5 minutes?
But it's not evident in nursing. I've never, please prove me wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. And anyone out there who, when they see this podcast, can identify, you name a location anonymously, of course, if you wish to, but please, genuinely, if there's any industry out there that's a frontline industry that has a better experience than what we're talking about, like seriously, please, because we're not saying we're right, we're not saying we're wrong, but are we jealous?
Partially. I mean, I feel partially, and that's why I'm, questioning myself on it. But I've got a rule for myself, I guess, as well, which is...
So is this now going to self-care or...
Self-care, but I know, for example, if I'm client-facing and I cannot be 80% present for a client and that, 20% of my own, because we've all got our personal shit, do you know what I mean? And at a certain age, I'm like, oh, my knee hurts, you know what I mean? Oh, I put my back out, or, you know what I mean? Whatever, I've got whatever's going on at home, just normal stuff. But if I can't be 80% present for my clients, I feel like I shouldn't be at work because that's unsafe practice.
So before we finish this actual podcast, the question then has to lend itself is, how does management and is management receptive to that? And are you having to take personal leave, annual leave, or is there something else that needs to be considered in the system? Because obviously we're saying the system's broken. Let's look through life in rose-coloured glasses and work out how do we actually start creating conversation about how the system needs to change.
Well, absolutely. And I will say, I cannot remember talking to someone in my profession that has actually used their personal leave or annual leave for anything other than emergency self-care. Like actually planning and going away on a holiday for 2 weeks or a week. What's that? My nervous system is often so burnt out that the idea of going away for even a week, I would come back exhausted. Why? Because I'd have to probably plan the whole thing, even just packing my bags, getting myself there, and enjoying the thing is too much for me. I just need to be at home going, I can't move. And that's what, I can't remember last time I was on a holiday.
If you ever get a chance, seriously consider going for 5 or 7 day cruise.
I've done it.
For me...
That was before I was in this line of work.
Fair enough. But for me, the best reset, nervous system reset for my husband and I was a cruise, because all I had to worry about was what I packed, and that was it.
The stress of getting there, making sure I've got the right clothes, actually getting onto the cruise. Do you know what I mean? Like all of that stuff, finding the place.
That to me is less stressful than, and then planning dinners, food shopping, washing, who needs to eat what the freaking hell to cook, because of my brain and the way my brain works. But whilst you're out there, everyone, out in our podcast land, when this eventually comes across your page, what do you do? Genuinely, what do you do to help yourselves with self-care?